In a world that's always demanding our attention, just finding a single moment for ourselves can feel, well, impossible, right? But what if I told you that a few quiet moments of connection could actually be the key to a really profound personal transformation? Today, we're diving into the incredible power of devotional time. Does this look familiar? I mean, in this super fast-paced world, it's so easy to feel scattered, stressed out, and just pulled in 100 different directions by work, by family, by our phones, all of it. We give so much of ourselves away, but honestly, what time do we actually make for our inner selves? So, this is exactly where the practice of devotional time comes into play. But what does that really mean? Well, at its very heart, it's all about intentionally carving out a dedicated space for connection. Now, let's be clear, this isn't about one specific religion or some kind of rigid, complicated set of rules. Devotional time is a deeply, deeply personal experience. It's simply a dedicated period that you set aside to consciously connect with the divine, however you understand that, through things like prayer, meditation, or honestly, even just quiet inner reflection. Think about that word devotion. It implies this deep love and loyalty. And that's exactly why this isn't about just checking a box or going through the motions of a ritual. It's about nurturing a relationship. It's about showing up with a foundation of faith and love. And in any relationship, what really matters isn't the grand gestures, right? It's the intention behind them. When it comes to devotional time, that sincerity, well, it's everything. This is such a great reminder to just let go of that pressure to be perfect. You don't need to have flawless words or these complex, elaborate rituals. What's truly wanted is a sincere heart. It's all about your genuine, honest intention to connect. That's it. Okay, so I think we get the what and the why. But what about the practical side of things? What's the real impact on our daily lives? What actually changes when we make space for this practice? The benefits are really tangible, and they hit on that feeling of being overwhelmed we talked about. By shifting your focus from all those external pressures to an internal anchor, that constant stress and anxiety really starts to fade. That frantic mental noise, it gets replaced by a sense of clarity. This dedicated time strengthens our faith, and that consistent practice actually builds self-discipline that spills over into other parts of life, all while you're deepening that core spiritual relationship. But, beyond even these amazing daily benefits, a much, much deeper change starts to happen. The practice of devotion actually begins to transform us from the inside out. And here's the central insight, the absolute key to all of this. The practice of devotion isn't meant to change the divine. It's not about changing our external circumstances. Its real power is in the internal shifts it creates inside of us. So the first major transformation you see is this incredible shift from fear to faith. In a world that's so full of uncertainty, fear can be a constant companion, can it? But through consistent devotional time, that foundation of fear starts to dissolve, and it gets replaced by this growing sense of trust and faith. The second shift is just as powerful. Those feelings of resentment, frustration, and anger, they can begin to soften as we connect with a source of unconditional love, our own capacity for compassion, not just for others, but for ourselves too. It just begins to expand. And finally, we see this move from confusion to clarity. When our minds are scattered and our thoughts are just racing, this quiet time acts like an anchor. It helps us cut through all that noise, find our center, and just see our path forward so much more clearly. So what do all these incredible transformations, from fear to faith, from anger to compassion, and from confusion to clarity, what do they all lead to? Well, they lead to the greatest blessing of all. Because when that divine connection becomes the very center of your life, everything else just starts to find its proper balance. The ultimate gift of this practice isn't really something you get, it's something you find, a deep, real, and abiding sense of inner peace.
devotional time is truly a sacred gift we give to ourselves. It's in that stillness, in that quiet space, that we reconnect with our deepest essence, where the soul remembers where it belongs, far from the chaos of our everyday lives.
And this is the simple but really profound promise of the whole practice. When you show up with a sincere, devoted heart, a divine presence is just naturally felt. It's not about searching for something far away. It's about revealing the connection that is already right there. And that leaves us with this one final thought to carry with us. No matter how busy and chaotic life gets, just a few moments dedicated to this practice can heal, they can recenter, and they can transform. So the question isn't whether you have the time, it's what that time could make possible for you. Really, what could a few moments of stillness truly change?
Now, I will explain the next part to you very simply. Please listen. The purpose of devotional time. The purpose of devotional time with God is not to ask for material things alone. Its real purpose is inner transformation. When we spend time with God, we begin to understand ourselves better. Devotional time helps us reflect on our actions, seek forgiveness, develop humility, cultivate compassion, align our life with divine values. In divinational moments, the ego slowly dissolves. A person realizes that they are not alone in this universe. God becomes a guide, a friend, a protector, and a source of strength. Many spiritual teachers say that even 10 minutes of the true devotion is more powerful than hours of mechanical worship. When devotion is real time, disappears, the soul feels light, calm, and hopeful. Devotional time is also a time of surrender. It teaches us to trust God's plan even when life feels unchristian or painful. Through devotion, we learn patent and acceptance.
Hey everyone, and welcome. So, I want to ask you something. What if you could turn your entire day, every single part of it, into an act of devotion without really changing what you do at all? Today, we're diving into this really powerful idea that the secret might just be a simple shift in how we see things. It's all about gratitude. I mean, really think about that for a second. We so often box up devotion, right? We give it a specific time, a specific place, maybe a few minutes when we wake up or a quiet corner in our house. But what if that's thinking too small? What if every single moment, from the work you do to the people you talk to, could actually be an act of devotion? So how is that even possible? Well, to get how this works, the source material we're looking at today points us toward what it calls the absolute purest form of devotion. And you know what? It's not found in some complicated ritual. It's something way more fundamental, something that's accessible to every single one of us. And here it is, gratitude. The source gives us this really powerful way of looking at it. See, it's not just about being polite and saying thank you, it's an acknowledgement of grace. Now that's a key difference, isn't it? It changes gratitude from just a feeling you have into an active, conscious choice to recognize all the good that is already in your life. It's a direct spiritual connection. So what does this look like in practice? Well, the source gives us a list. It starts with the things we'd expect, our life, our health, food, family. But then it throws in a curveball, challenges. Now that is a profound shift. It's not about pretending you enjoy hardship. Of course not. It's about being grateful for what the hardship teaches you, for the growth it kind of forces you into. It's about finding the gifts hidden inside our struggles. And that shift in perspective, well, that's the absolute key to unlocking a pretty profound transformation in your life. let's dig into how gratitude can literally move you from a mindset of lack to one of total abundance. And here it is, the choice we're all faced with in pretty much every moment. On one side, you can focus on what's missing, on lack. And where does that lead? Well, it almost always leads to complaints, to dissatisfaction. But on the other side, you can make a conscious choice to focus on what you do have, on abundance. The source is so clear about this. This one simple change fundamentally increases your happiness. Why? Because you're not changing your circumstances, you're just changing your focus. So what's the ultimate payoff for making the shift? It's peace. According to the text, peace isn't something you have to chase down or try to build. It's a natural result. When you cultivate a grateful heart, peace just sort of flows in to fill the space where all that dissatisfaction used to be. Okay, so we've talked about the internal work, that mindset of gratitude. But how do we actually carry that feeling out into the world and, make it real? This next part is all about putting that devotion into action. Those quiet moments of reflection are absolutely essential. But think of them as the training ground, not the main event. True devotion, as the source explains it, is how we live our lives after we get up from that quiet space. It's about weaving that thread of gratitude and connection into the whole fabric of your day. And here are some really practical ways to do it. Just notice how simple and universal these are. Helping others, speaking your truth, showing kindness, doing your work with honesty, and finally, just carrying that sense of awareness or remembrance with you into whatever you're doing. These aren't huge, grand gestures. They're just small, consistent choices that turn the mundane into something truly meaningful. And this brings us to the final, really powerful idea where everything comes together. This is the point where that internal state of gratitude and the external life of action, they just merge into one transformative way of living. Let's just pause on this for a second because this is a real game changer. When actions are done with love and surrender, life itself becomes worship. What this means is that your intention has the power to turn something totally ordinary into something sacred. And that word surrender, it doesn't mean giving up. It's more like doing your absolute best with love and then letting go of the outcome. It's about trusting the process. And that really just leaves us with this one final thought. Look, this isn't about trying to overhaul your entire life overnight. Just think about tomorrow. What is one small, ordinary thing you have to do? Making coffee, answering an email, anything that you could approach with this new sense of love and gratitude. What single daily action could you transform? You know that feeling, right? The world just never seems to stop. It feels like getting a moment of real, genuine quiet is almost impossible. Well, today we're going to talk about a way to find that quiet space, even in the middle of all the chaos. It's called devotional time. We're going to break down what it is, why it's so incredibly important, and honestly, how it just might change your life. So let's just paint a quick picture, and I'm sure this will sound familiar. We are living in a world of nonstop notifications, an endless scroll on our phones, and a to-do list that just seems to get longer and longer. Our attention is constantly being pulled in a million different directions. It's just exhausting. And in the middle of that constant rush, it is so easy to lose touch with something really important. With all that noise happening on the outside, have you maybe forgotten how to listen to what's going on inside? To that deeper part of who you are? So what's the answer? What's the antidote to all this noise? Well, it's a practice we call devotional time. But here's the thing you've got to understand. This is not just another chore to add to your list. It's not some complicated ritual you have to get exactly right. At its very core, devotional time is simply about setting aside a dedicated period to consciously, intentionally connect with something bigger. That could be through prayer, meditation, reading something meaningful, or even just taking a moment to feel grateful. The method really doesn't matter. What matters is that it's a personal experience, a quiet space for your soul to connect in whatever way feels right for you. And if we look at the word devotion itself, it tells us a lot. This isn't about duty or obligation. It's about deep love, a sense of loyalty, a willingness to surrender and let go, and a real dedication. That right there, that's a huge shift in how we think about it. And this idea really gets to the heart of it. We're moving away from doing a task and moving into being in a relationship. It's about showing up with faith, with a little humility, and with love. And when you do that, that feeling of connection, it just happens naturally. So why is making time for this relationship so important, especially right now? Well, it really all boils down to one simple, powerful word: balance. Just think about your average day for a second. Where does all your focus go? Work, family, social media, what to watch next? All important things for sure, but they're all external. They're all pulling your attention outward. And meanwhile, what about your inner self, your spiritual connection? That part often gets left behind. The scales they're pretty out of whack. Devotional time is what brings those scales back into balance. It's the practice that puts weight on the other side. It gives us a chance to heal our minds, to strengthen our souls, and to find that deep, profound sense of peace in our hearts. Okay, so you're probably thinking, what's in it for me? Fair question. If you actually commit to carving out this time for stillness, what's the real payoff? What are the actual rewards you can expect to see in your life? Well, the benefits are pretty huge. For starters, it's a major stress and anxiety reducer, a perfect antidote to that world of noise we were talking about. It brings a new kind of mental clarity, helping you cut through all the mental fog. Beyond that, it builds you up from the inside out. It strengthens your faith, improves your self-discipline, and all of this, of course, helps you build that deeper, more personal relationship with the divine. Now, I get it. This might sound a little intimidating. You might be thinking, I don't know how to do this, or what if I do it wrong? Well, there's one final really crucial thing to remember. And honestly, it's what makes this whole practice so accessible to absolutely everyone. This right here might be the most important takeaway of all. This is not a performance. It's not about finding the perfect, flawless words or following some complicated set of rules. It is simply about your intention. All that's required is a sincere heart. Just show up as you are, with honesty and openness. That's it. That's everything. So we're going to leave you with this one question to think about. This doesn't have to be some grand, hour-long ceremony. It doesn't require perfection. It can literally start with 5 minutes. So ask yourself, in your busy life, in your own world of noise, what could you stand to gain from just 5 minutes of stillness? You know that feeling, right? You get a great idea, you want to build a new habit, you're all fired up, but then, well, life does what it does. The distractions start piling up, and that little voice in your head starts whispering, "Are you sure you can do this?" It feels like you're just spinning your wheels. Seriously, does it sometimes feel completely impossible, like you're stuck on a treadmill you can't get off? You try to commit, you try to be devoted, but the momentum just fizzles out. It's so frustrating. It's easy to start thinking, well, maybe I'm just not cut out for this. But what if that feeling, that struggle, what if that's actually a normal part of the journey? And there it is. This is the permission slip we all need. Feeling distracted or doubtful doesn't mean you're failing. It just means you're human. The guilt we pile on top of that, that's just extra weight we don't need to carry. So the real first step is to just accept it. This stuff is hard, and that's okay. Okay, so if the struggle is normal, what do we actually do about it? We can't just throw our hands up. Well, that's where this really simple but super powerful action plan comes into play. Think of it as a roadmap to help you move forward, especially on the days when it feels tough. Here are the 4 key ingredients. Be consistent, start small, avoid comparison, and trust the process. Each one is a building block for the next, and together, they create this incredible foundation for real, steady progress. So let's break them down, one by one. First up, consistency. Now, this is not about being perfect. It's not about these huge heroic efforts. It is simply about showing up, even if it's just for 5 minutes on a day where you have zero motivation. You're just building a rhythm. You're teaching your brain, hey, this is a thing we do now. That simple act, day after day, is the bedrock of it all. Which leads us perfectly to number 2, start small. Oh man, we are so good at sabotaging ourselves by aiming way too high, right? We think we have to go from 0 to 100 in a day. But the real secret is to make the first step so ridiculously easy that you can't possibly say no to it. You want to read more? Just read 1 page. Want to meditate? Do it for 60 seconds. These tiny wins are what build unstoppable momentum. Next, we've got to talk about the big one, the ultimate progress killer, comparison. It is so easy, especially when you're taking those small, consistent steps, to look over at someone else who seems like they're miles ahead and just feel totally deflated. But here's why that's such a broken way of looking at things. Because you are literally comparing your behind-the-scenes footage, all the daily effort, the struggles, the messy parts, to their perfectly edited highlight reel. You see their final success, not the years of doubt and slow steps it took to get there. It's not a fair fight. The only race you're in is your own. And all of this brings us to the final and maybe most important piece of the puzzle. You have to trust the process. Once you're showing up consistently, starting small, and you've put your blinders on to what everyone else is doing, you just have to have a little faith. You have to believe that all those small daily efforts are adding up, like compound interest, even when you can't see the results just yet. You know, to really nail this idea of trusting the process, it helps to switch our whole way of thinking. So instead of thinking like a sprinter who's just focused on the finish line, let's try thinking like a gardener. I mean, how beautiful is that? You don't plant a seed in the ground and then come back the next day and expect a full-grown tree. That would be insane. It needs time, it needs patience, it needs nurturing. And it's the exact same thing with any new skill or habit you're trying to build. It needs time to grow strong roots. Just look at how this plays out. On day one, you plant the seed. That's your start small moment. For weeks, it might look like absolutely nothing is happening on the surface, but then you see that first little sprout. That's your small win. It's proof. With months of consistent care, you get steady growth. And after a year, you've got deep roots that can handle anything. But you never get to that year one without trusting the process through those early quiet days. And here's the magic of thinking like a gardener. When you just focus on the daily actions, the watering, the weeding, making sure there's sunlight, the doubts just kind of fade into the background. You know why? Because the action itself becomes the answer to your anxiety. You're too busy tending to your garden to worry if it's growing fast enough. So, we've talked about the problem, we've got the 4-step plan, and we have a whole new mindset. Now it's time to make this real. The only moment that really matters is right now. So how do we put this into practice today? This is the only question you need to answer. Not what you're going to do tomorrow or next week, today. What is one tiny, manageable, almost laughably small seed that you can plant right now? Don't overthink it. Just pick one small thing. That's it. That's your first step. Because in the end, that's what this is all about. It's about trusting that those small, consistent actions really, truly matter. The strongest trees, the most deeply rooted habits, they don't just appear overnight. They grow from one single seed, planted with a little bit of patience and cared for day by day.
Let's be real, in our always-on, constantly connected world, finding a moment of real peace feels, well, almost impossible, doesn't it? But what if there's a way to carve out a little space for quiet, for connection, for some genuine stillness? Today we're going to dive into this idea of devotional time, a practice for finding that sacred center, no matter how crazy life gets.
I mean, just think about your typical day. It probably starts with this, right? An inbox that just never, ever seems to empty, a to-do list that's already a mile long before you've even had your first sip of coffee.
And then, of course, come the sounds, the little pings, the dings, the constant buzzes from our phones. Every single one is a tiny, insistent tug on our attention, just scattering our focus in a million different directions. You know, between work, family, social media, and just trying to keep everything afloat, it feels like we're constantly giving little pieces of ourselves away. It's this relentless pace that can just leave you feeling totally drained and kind of disconnected.
So it just begs the question, right? In the middle of all this noise, where's the space to just be? How do we find some calm, some balance, when everything is pulling at us? Well, the answer might lie in a very intentional kind of practice.
And that brings us right here to an invitation to stillness through something called devotional time. So let's unpack what this actually means and why it might just be so incredibly powerful.
Okay, so at its core, devotional time is pretty simple. It's a protected space in your day. It's about consciously setting aside a moment to connect with the divine, whatever that means to you personally. It could be prayer, a little quiet meditation, reading something meaningful, or even just taking a second for some gratitude. And this is the part I absolutely love. It's universal. This isn't about one specific religion or some rigid set of rules you have to follow. It's a deeply, deeply personal experience. Think of it like a direct line where your inner self, your soul, gets to communicate in its own unique language. Now let's dig a little deeper here, because it's so important to see this as building a relationship, not just, checking a box. And like any relationship, creating a good environment for it really helps. This could be as simple as finding a quiet corner in your home, maybe keeping it clean and tidy, lighting a candle. Anything that signals to your brain, okay, this time is different, this time is special.
The word itself, devotion, it tells you everything, doesn't it? It's not about just going through the motions. It's rooted in these really deep feelings: love, loyalty, surrender, a heartfelt dedication. And that totally reframes the whole practice. Because while a peaceful spot is great, the source material is super clear. This connection isn't limited to one place. It can happen on a walk in nature, on your commute, or just in the silence of your own heart. This slide just lays it all out so perfectly. On one side, you've got ritual, which can get kind of tangled up in perfection and obligation. But on the other side, relationship, that's all about sincerity, love, and genuine connection. A lot of people find the early morning is perfect for this, when the mind is calm. But a quiet moment of gratitude right before bed can be just as meaningful. The when and where are way less important than the sincere desire to connect.
So, if we make that shift in our minds from obligation to connection, what's the actual payoff? What does this practice really bring to our busy everyday lives? And that's a fair question. With everything else on our plates, why should we prioritize this? What's in it for us, really? Well, turns out the benefits are both profound and incredibly practical. The source material points to 5 key benefits that really get to the heart of it. It can reduce stress and anxiety, which who doesn't need that? It brings mental clarity in a world of information overload. It strengthens your faith. The simple act of setting aside the time improves self-discipline. And of course, most importantly, it builds that deeper, personal relationship we've been talking about.
And that brings us to what might be the most freeing, most reassuring idea in this entire explainer. It's all about letting go of that pressure to be perfect. Just let that sink in for a second. This is so important. True devotion is not a performance. You don't need to have the perfect, eloquent words or some complicated ceremony. The focus isn't on getting it right. That just takes a huge weight off, doesn't it?
So if it's not about perfection, not about rituals, not about flawless words, then what is the one thing that truly matters? What's the real point? This is everything. A sincere heart, an honest intention, a genuine desire to connect. That's the only real requirement. It's so simple, it's accessible to every single one of us, and it is incredibly powerful. And so I'll leave you with this to reflect on. In the quiet moments of your own life, what does it really mean to approach this practice, or hey, anything really, with a truly sincere heart? What might that look and feel like for you?
Now, I will explain the next part to you very simply. Please listen. Scripture reading and spiritual wisdom. Reading sacred text or spiritual literature during devotional time bring divine wisdom into daily life. Scriptures guide us by teaching moral value, offering life lessons, strengthening faith, providing hope during difficult time. Reading even one meaningful line daily can inspire positive change. Reflection is more important than quantity. After reading, sit quietly and think about how the message applies to your life. This transforms reading into devotional.
Hey there, and welcome. Today, we're going to talk about prayer, but maybe not in the way you're used to thinking about it. We're going to strip it all the way back to its simplest, most beautiful form, a conversation, a real dialogue of the heart. I mean, really think about it for a second. Have you ever just wanted a conversation with zero pretense, no holding back, where you can be, well, completely and totally you? That feeling, that's the very core of what we're exploring today. All right, so first things first, let's kind of pull back the curtain on prayer. A lot of us have this idea that it's got to be formal or super complicated. But what if I told you it's actually one of the most natural things we can do? So, what is prayer, really? At its heart, it's just talking to God. That's it, seriously. There's no pressure to find the right words, no need for fancy formal language. The whole point is just the conversation itself. And you know what? There is absolutely no one right way to do this. You can speak it out loud or say it all inside your head. It can be a messy, emotional outpouring, or it can be just a quiet moment of being thankful. It can even be a desperate cry from the very depths of your heart. Guess what? All of it, it's all prayer.
Okay, so if prayer is really that simple, just talking, then what makes it so powerful? What's the point? Well, that's what we're diving into next, how this simple act of talking actually strengthens our own awareness and our feeling of connection.
You know, the real secret sauce here, it's all about honesty. It's not about putting on a show or presenting some perfect, polished version of yourself. A real, deep connection, that's built on authenticity, on being completely open about who you are and what you're feeling right here, right now.
And I mean, you can bring everything to this conversation. Your deepest fears, your wildest hopes, the mistakes you've made, the dreams you can barely admit to yourself. Nothing is off limits. It's a space where you can share the entire, messy, beautiful spectrum of your life.
Now, this is a question that comes up a lot, right? If God already knows everything, then why bother praying? And that's a great question. But here's the twist. Prayer isn't really about informing God of new facts. It's for us. It's the act of sharing, of putting things into words that strengthens our awareness and deepens our own sense of connection.
So we've covered what prayer is and why we do it, but what does it do to us? How does it actually change things on the inside? This next part is all about that, the transformative power of prayer, especially in how it can bring us a sense of humility and a deep, anchoring peace.
You know, one of the biggest things that comes out of a regular prayer life is this. It teaches humility, and not in a bad way. It's this gentle process that helps shift our perspective away from just ourselves and towards something so much bigger.
So how does that even work? Well, it's kind of like a domino effect. First, when we pray, we're basically admitting we don't have all the answers. We accept that we need guidance. That simple act starts to soften our hearts. And when the heart softens, it begins to gently chip away at the walls of pride.
And that makes sense, right? Because that's exactly what pride does. It tells us we have to handle everything on our own, that we don't need help. It creates this feeling of separation, this distance between us and any chance of getting divine help or feeling that connection.
And that's where prayer comes in. It's like the perfect antidote. It completely flips the script. Instead of just talking and insisting on our own way, it teaches us how to be still, how to listen. It closes that gap that pride creates. All right, so this all sounds good in theory, but how do you actually, do it? How do we make this a real part of our everyday lives? This last section is all about that, how to weave this simple practice into the fabric of your day.
I mean, just look at this. 3 little words, God guide me. This is such a perfect example of how prayer doesn't need to be some long, elaborate speech to be incredibly powerful. That's a whole prayer you can say in a single breath.
And that's what's so amazing and, frankly, encouraging about this whole thing. You don't need to block out an hour of your day. Just a moment, a single short, heartfelt prayer like that one, it can bring this incredible sense of calm and clarity right into the middle of a crazy, stressful day. And over time, all these little moments, they start to add up. When you make a habit of praying regularly, even in these tiny bursts, you start to build a whole new reflex in your mind. You build a habit of remembering, of feeling that constant, comforting sense of a divine presence in your life.
Okay, so before we finish up, let's just quickly run through the big ideas we've talked about. First, prayer is just a conversation. Simple as that. Second, being honest is what makes that connection strong. Third, it's a practice that helps grow humility and peace inside you. And last but not least, never ever underestimate how powerful even the shortest prayer can be. So I want to leave you with a question to chew on. Forget about getting the words right. Forget about how long it should be. Just for today, if you were going to have one of these conversations right now, what's one truly honest thought, a hope, a fear, a little bit of gratitude that you could share?
Friends, how did you like our video? If you liked the video, please like it, subscribe to our channel and share it with others. Friends, which topic do you want to see the next video? Our channel keeps bringing religious and beautiful information. Please do tell us in the comments. Our team will try to make a video on that topic. Friends, which topic do you want to see a video? Please tell us in the comments, and if you have not yet subscribed to our channel, then I will tell you again, please subscribe to our channel. Click on the bell icon visible on the right side and click on all. We will meet again in the new video. Till then, goodbye. Thanks for watching.